what am I passionate about, right? What am I uniquely gifted to give to this world? What would I do if money was not an object? That is what financial freedom will do for you.
Welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we got successful entrepreneurs and investors on the journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more all of it away to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swartz, and every episode we're joined by some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, or billionaires. And they bring their insights, their wisdom, their encouragement, their challenge to us so we can each scale, grow, and compound our wealth and our impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He's the founder and partner at Wealth Without Wall Street. He brings impact, integrity, and generosity to the company every day. He hopes to be remembered as a lover of Jesus, devoted husband, and faithful father. Despite dreaming around age 10 of becoming an orthopedic surgeon, he found himself in the mortgage business for 11 years. And then moving to finance, and then his personal mentor, Nelson Nash, another man of integrity, impact, and somehow he became someone that he looked up to. And between all of that and so much more, he has built with his partners and team an amazing company that's going to teach us not only how to build wealth without Wall Street, but also today to have freedom to increase service. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. Joey Mure. Joey, how are we doing?
Oh, so good to be with you, Brett. I love being in like-minded places. So this is going to be great.
Excellent. And for our listeners to get to know you for the first time, why don't you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
And I'll tell you, I was on the corporate ladder journey. You know, go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get a good job, and one day, hopefully, maybe you'll retire if you accumulate enough money that you can live off of. And as I was in the process of that, man, I have 5 beautiful daughters, and I started working more and more and more to the point where I was stuck. I was being taken away. My time was on the proverbial rat race, and I would be sitting there, even on vacation, saying, "Hey, girls, just go down to the beach. I'll be down there just after one more call." And there I am 4 hours later, trying to join them at the beach, and they're done for the day, and they're coming up to the condo or to the house, and I'm sitting there wondering, what am I going to do about this? Like, this doesn't work. And that really could put me on this journey to say, man, I can't be the only asset at work. Money has to be at work, and I don't even know what to do yet, but I'm going to figure it out. And that's really what started me on the journey to building what is now Wealth Without Wall Street. And Russ and I talk about this every month on the podcast, but we've built over $50,000 a month in passive income, which has given us our time back.
Amazing. And by the way, if you want to learn more about Joey and everything that he and his partners are doing, just go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. And if you do also the / build it to billions, there's a financial freedom score that you can check out. Little survey, some free downloads. Again, that's wealthwithoutwallstreet.com / build it to billions. Don't forget the S. Amazing. So it sounds like, Mr. Joey, you found out at best time that you could, maybe today's the next day that we focus on that, which is not trading what was profitable for what's priceless, right? Which is always a bad trade. And so today's topic, which is freedom to increase service, a lot of our listeners have made it financially. They have built it to at least, $1 million in revenue, or at least $1 million net worth. And their biggest thing is, the freedom to increase their service or their time. So, Joey, what is the number one secret to freedom to increase service and time?
Well, I'll tell you, it comes down to, is your passive income exceeding your monthly expenses? If that is the case, that's the funny thing is, you were talking about millionaire, billionaire, like, what do those words even mean? Is it about a number that's in a bank account somewhere, or is it about your time being your own? And I think that is far more valuable than a number in a bank account, because there's so many variables that can affect the future or the lack thereof that number represents. But what can be sustainable is when my passive income exceeds my monthly expenses. I no longer look to someone else to put their requirements on my time. Right? I always kind of use this whenever I'm speaking at events and stuff. I always say, hey, take out your phone, take out the calendar app that I know you live and die by, because we all do. And I want you to look at the screen, and you see on the screen all those little color-coded boxes. Say, you've arrived when each one of those boxes were placed there by you. Nobody else, no business, no any other company you work for or whatever has put those there. You'd got to do that. That is the picture of financial freedom. And that, and only then, is when you can unlock that part of your brain that says, what am I passionate about? Right? What am I uniquely gifted to give to this world? What would I do if money was not an object? That is what financial freedom will do for you. And I love it because I get to do this every day. I get to continue to tell people about this because I am passionate about it, and because this is what I want to use my time for. It's not because I have to, it's because I want to. And I want to help more people get to that same location instead of hanging their hat on, like I said, some number in a bank account.
Excellent. And so, got it. So passive income exceeds, all of your monthly expenses, right? I like to say you don't have to ask money for time, right? So
that's right.
You don't have to go ask your whatever, or your work for time, or whatever it is out there for time to be doing the things that you're feeling called to, right? I believe we've all been given, certain God-given gifts, but more than that, we've been given each a unique work to do, by the Lord, and He's given us that work to do. And so I think part of financial freedom is, and we're going to get into this, is not just, and I think that's step one, right? Getting your passive income to replace your expenses, right? It is so that you can unlock these things you're talking about here, right? So walk us through the next step. If I got my passive income, it's replaced my living expenses, right? I've built that up where it's consistent, it's durable, it's coming in. I don't have to really think about it. I don't have to have a big stress about it. I don't have to have a bunch of liability out there. I think there's a myth within the real estate world of what's called passive real estate. Unless you're truly working with like a sponsor or third party, even then you're managing the manager, but still it's as passive as it gets. But if you have real estate of your own, even if you have property management, I mean, you're owning, you have, bank stuff, you have, tenant laws, you have, something that's always broken. There's something there that's pulling you, the toilets, the trash, the termites, the stress. So you say wealth without Wall Street, walk us through step number 2 after you have your passive, replacing your expenses.
Well, and actually what I would say is that is a result of the first 2 steps. So I wouldn't say that's your first step. Most people, they understand that that's the vision, right? In fact, how many people do you know, Brett, who've read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Everybody I know have read that. And if they haven't, I'm like shocked if they haven't.
We're not in the right circles if you haven't read it for the most part. But so most people have read it, but how many people do you know who are actually financially free?
Next is, to that fourth quadrant, I feel like maybe 1%.
Very, very small percentage.
Yeah.
And what we've identified, Brett, there's really 2 steps that are missing from beginning to the end. So the knowledge is not enough, right? Knowing the formula does not get you to financial freedom. It just inspires or exposes you to what's possible, right? But what does get you there is, number 1, having a cash flow system that supports it. Okay, and what I mean by that is you may have been doing things with money your entire life up to the point that you figure out, man, financial freedom is really about passive income exceeding monthly expenses. All of a sudden, what you were doing with money doesn't always line up with that new goal. And so our philosophy and the way that we help people is we help people get aligned with that. And we say, okay, now we have to start making decisions. If this is the goal I want to get to, where my passive income exceeds monthly expenses, I need to start putting money in different locations. I can't keep putting money into my 401k, for instance. Okay, because that doesn't support financial freedom today. That supports retirement. That supports this idea of being taken out of service sometime in my 60s or 70s. But guess what? I'm right here today, and I have a calling and a way of service today that needs to be made happen. And how does that happen? I got to start doing different things with my money. So that's the first step. And we can talk about the second step, but is there any questions about that? Because that,
No,
that
I just
to me
my
is
comment
a
on
big,
that is like,
big
yeah,
deal.
it was about 10 years ago I came to that realization of I was, following some of the traditional, budgeting plans and different things, which are really good for foundational stuff. But I came to a point I was like, you know what? Two things. I have 5 kids as well, Joey. And so 4 daughters and a boy at the end. Got the male heir. But I came to the conclusion that I didn't want to wait till I was 60 or 65 or 70 for all of these things that are out there to free up my time. I was like, I want to free up my time now. And so I actually just either got out of the 401k or just stopped, any of the IRAs, just stopped all of that, right? Roth is, I think you can make a decent thing for Roth. But even then, like, my philosophy on this now is not until I call it truly passive income. And I believe that truly passive income is to your freedom and impact, is compounding interest is to your money. And truly passive income is no shoes, no shirt, no problem. I no longer have to ask, money for my time, and I'm simply able to have consistent, durable income every single month. And so I said, until I get there, am I going to go with that other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like the other stuff is the small domino, and the big domino is what we're talking about. So I'm glad you're saying the same thing, because I think too many people get caught in just the traditional way of thinking about tax deferral, traditional way of thinking about building wealth, and it simply is a small domino which has value, but after the big domino knocks over.
That's right. And let me just add to that. You just said a very key word. You said they get caught up. In fact, we call it money traps, right? There are things that you're putting money in right now that were either told to you to be a good thing at some point in your 20s or whatever, or they were just things that you did because everybody else did them. And you're like, it must be good because everybody's doing it. But we just said, to be financially free, there's very few people that are even on the path to getting there. And so what you do with money cannot be common. It has to be uncommon, right? To get uncommon results, we have to do uncommon things with our money. And I'll break it down. We can dive into as many of these as you want, but we call money traps like your qualified plans, right? 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, even 529 plans. Yes, I will poo-poo a 529 plan, because these things all have limitations and they require you to push off your money until a date is way past your expected time of being financially free.
They lack flexibility, right? They lack the flexibility to move and with your world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like and then I'll say this: equity in your home. Most people think, oh man, I've got to pay my house off. Nope. I'm telling you, we can break this down. I'm happy to back any of these things up, but that's a money trap. And then like the stock market is a money trap. And it's because there's such a psychological, emotional trap behind that money that will never actually free you up to turn it into cash flow. And so again, we can break those down, but those are the big 3 in my mind. There's still others that we could talk about, but our coaches walk people through this to help them to see, this is not going to support my goal. So why would I keep contributing? Why would I keep putting money in those places? So anyways, that's just kind of
those are good. That's great. So let's keep moving on to like the steps here, right? So freedom to increase service, right? Freedom to true financial freedom is going to involve having your time. So we've talked about, not getting caught in the money traps. We talked about building a cash flow system that aligns with your true biggest goals, right? Thinking differently and putting it in uncommon places. So got it. And so what's the next step here to really having some freedom to increase service?
Well, I'll tell you this, you have to become an investor. That's the next big step. And, some of you have had really successful businesses and you're like, I'm an investor. I've invested in my business. Like I'm an entrepreneur. That makes me a good investor. I'm willing to tell you, you're not. I'm just telling you. In fact, you could be the opposite of a good investor. Because what it takes to skill-wise to be a good entrepreneur is to be an optimist. To be like, I'm going to power through. I'm going to pull things up by my bootstraps. I'm going to make it happen. Well, if you get into the wrong investment because you're optimistic, you're out of luck, man. Like it's a loss. So in order to be an investor, you have to actually get clear on a few things. You have to know who you are as an investor. You have to know your unique investor DNA profile. Like most people never talk about this, Brett, but what you invest in, you should line up with from a personality standpoint. If it doesn't align with you, you're at best going to get bored, and at worst may never invest in other things again because you think that they're all like this and it doesn't really get you excited. The second thing, you have to have a buy box, because Brett, when you start going to the world and saying, hey, I'm an investor, I want to invest in things, you're going to get deals. They're just not going to be good deals. I'm just telling you, people will find you to be an investor and they will put anything in front of you, and you have to be willing to say, well, wait a minute, let's break down this deal by its components, right? Does it have tax benefits? Does it have cash flow within the first 6 months? Does it give me equity upside? Like, what are the components about an investment that you are absolutely non-negotiable? And what are the things you can give on? If you haven't identified those, everything looks like a good deal until it's not. And so you have to define success and then lay the deal over it and say, does it meet my criteria? And if it doesn't, you say no faster than you say yes. And so anyways, there's a lot more behind becoming an investor, but you have to be willing to train yourself, get the proper mentorship, guidance, whatever it may be. And I'm telling you, that is a game changer, because once you do that, all of a sudden you have more confidence and more clarity, and you can start saying yes to the right deals, no to the wrong. And that's going to catapult you into financial freedom.
Excellent. And by the way, we're speaking with Joey Mure. You can find him at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/build-it-to-billions, wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/build-it-to-billions. Yeah, that all makes great sense. I love the way you say that. Your buy box. I think it's like saying, like, what is the intention and the perfect outcome? If I had the perfect outcome for this investment, what would it do for me, right? And,
that's right.
And so sometimes it is, depreciation offset, because I need to build up my tax flow, depreciation offset my cash flow. Sometimes it is just pure cash flow, right? I just want to maximize my cash flow. Sometimes it is, hey, I can let this sit and build and have more equity upside. In a perfect world, it can have, a bit of all three, right? But I mean, you just got to be really intentional about what is it that I want it to, to do for me. And then what's my thesis on the marketplace? What's my thesis on the sponsors? What's the track record of the sponsors? What's my thesis on what I wanted to do? And how does that fit into my overall wealth plan? A little bit of intentionality can go a long way, right? I think it's like, if you're off by a degree or two in the beginning, you'll be off by a mile here in an hour or two, right? So you've got to have some intentionality. I also call it certainty of execution, Joey, right? What helps you to gain certainty of execution? Because I think, to me, that helps with the emotional roller coasters, right? From not jumping out when things are, like, whether it be the stock market, whether it be real estate, whether it be whatever it is that you might decide as a part of this wealth plan. What helps you to have certainty of execution?
Yeah. Are you asking me, or are you saying?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, yeah, those things that I just mentioned. One, knowing that my cash is going to the right locations that I can access anytime to be able to take down a deal. Because opportunities find cash, right? Again, not always good opportunities, but opportunities find cash. So if I have access, I'm going to be able to be more confident to take down a deal. Number two, confidence in who I am as an investor and what my buy box is. If I have those three components, it almost covers everything, because then it's just a matter of the due diligence behind, as you mentioned, the operator or the sponsor, whomever is really the person that's going to be making this business plan happen. Now I can be like, yeah, I can say yes to that, or no, doesn't fit. And that gives me certainty.
Excellent. I love that. And so now we're going to kind of bring this together to original topic, which is freedom to increase service. And so you got to lay these foundations before you can do those things, because the worst part of this, Joey, would be you finally get that time, but then you're so worried about, is this passive income going to keep showing up? And did I make the right decision? And, and it kind of what's that saying, right? I try to get out in Godfather, but they pull me back in, right? It's like, See the Godfather. See the Godfather. And yeah, and so, but we want you to have financial peace of mind, which includes your emotional state, your actual physical time, right? Your risk tolerance, right? For things that you might be, having debt or signing on debt, for the sponsors and the people you're working with. So the freedom to increase service, all right? So you've achieved all this, you've done it now. Walk us through that next, you're in the golden land, right? You're in the promised land, right? What does that look like on a day-to-day, Joey, to make sure you don't get pulled right back in?
Well, this may not be super popular to say, but I'll say passive income does not mean uninvolved income. Like most people are like, is there anything truly passive? I would say you have to be involved. And actually, you mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, being a steward is an involved process. So when do you ever stop being a steward? When you're in the ground. That's it. Because until then, you have resources that have been given to you by God to steward well, to the best of your ability. That includes investing. If you're going to become an investor, that means the deals that you're doing, you're checking in on. You're not just like assuming the best and putting your head in the sand. You're doing a regular check-in with the operator, whether it's a small business, whether it's an LP investment that you're doing in a syndication, or it's your own business that you've got operators that are running and now you've got your time back. You still have to actually check in, right? That's part of stewarding. So I don't want to give the wrong impression that like you never do anything, you just keep your hands off the wheel, so to speak, but you are involved to some extent. But beyond that, here's the thing that I would say. If I can buy back 40 hours a week of my time or 30 hours a week of my time, what is on the other side of that for you, right? What is the specific calling that you would do if money was not an issue? Is that being more involved in your church? Is it being somebody who is going to be involved in your community in some sort of passion project, being on a board that really desperately could use your business knowledge and acumen and connections that you just don't have time for today? I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's like for me, Brett, we talked about have 5 daughters, you have 4. I look down the road and I say, man, there's going to be some special young men that are going to come into my life at some point that are going to want to marry my daughters. And at the very least, I want to be available. If those young men want to start businesses, they want to become investors, I want to be a part of their lives. I don't want to be like, well, I'll see you at Christmas and Thanksgiving because I don't have time otherwise. I'd rather be like, hey man, every Monday, let's check in and let's see how that business is going. And here's some connections that you can use. And hey, let's build this up. Those are the type of things that get me really, excited about what financial freedom will allow me to do. But I don't know what that is for you. You have to fill in the blank. But man, the system and as you said, the confidence or the certainty to get there is really what's going to unlock that for you.
I love it. What I'm hearing is it sounds like you really have the margin to be of service to others, as well as build, strong relationships and do that unique next calling that you feel, God's given you, that you feel like is the next piece of your life, which I love that. I love that idea of serving in community. And I also want to encourage everyone too that, the power of and. One of my mentors, Don Winter, talks about this and talks about, business is ministry, right? And not that you're saying that you have to choose one or the other, but the power of and, that your business is your ministry. And so I think sometimes even just thinking like this allows you to have more margin to, let's just say I had passive income to replace all of my needs that I can now pour into my team and still build my business, but I don't need to be paid for my business, right? I can go hire more world-class talent or pour into my team members, right? And so it doesn't necessarily mean that I walk away from my business or I walk away from the real estate, but it could change my role and my approach of how I make an impact within that on the day-to-day, because financially we have more margin, right? And that just changes things. there a couple levers you have. You have your time, and you have your cash flow, right? You can use money as a tool versus it, having to have a certain role. Any thoughts on that, Joey?
Well, I'll add this to what you're saying, because I 100% back you up on this. Think for a minute, if you weren't the operating head of the company that was involved in the day-to-day grind, okay? How much more purposeful could you be with your executive team in actually getting to know who they are? I'm guilty of it right now. As I speak right now, we're on a huge growth pattern, and we're having to hire and grow and hire and grow. And honestly, I don't slow down enough to go and say, man, tell me about your marriage. How are the kids doing? How can I be involved in helping this man or this woman in my team become the best version of themselves, because I'm able to pour into them? If I can buy back more of my time from the have to now I can actually spend more time. This is one example. We had one guy on our team that, in one passing comment, Brett, he said, hey, I know you and Russ are religious. And I was like, and I don't know, this is a weird situation, Brett, but I was like, I need to correct him. God was putting on my heart, we need to correct him. Because I said, great story. Thank you for sharing, but I got to correct you. Russ and I are not religious. And he was puzzled, what are you talking about? Of course you are. You guys talk about your faith and stuff. And I was like, we have a relationship with Jesus. We are not religious. And I said, religious are people who are doing things to earn favor or to be enough. I already know I'm not enough, and that Jesus had to be enough, and therefore I can be enough because he was enough. That's it. And if you want to ever talk about that, I'd love to spend some time with you. He was like, yeah, I'd love to actually talk about that. Fast forward, that led to us doing a small group, a Bible study, and he became a Christian. And I am so grateful for that. Not trying to brag, but to say, if I was completely, maxed out on my time, I would have never taken the time to do that. But now he's talked about his son becoming a Christian, his family's going to church. There's impact beyond the dollars in your business that are under your nose every day. And how do we free up more of your time so that you can yield those results, yield those millions and billions, right? Versus just the dollars.
Amen and amen. I call it the EROI, right? Eternal return on investment, right? Versus the ROI, which is temporary. We're speaking with Joey Mure, by the way, Wealth Without Wall Street / Build It to Billions, Wealth Without Wall Street / Build It to Billions. Discover your financial freedom score and get the free downloads for an ebook for passive income operating a system, and learn how to take control of your fund and your path to financial freedom and so much more. Go to that wealthwithoutwallstreet.com / Build It to Billions. Joey, we're way out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it, man.
All right, knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Stop working for money and get money to work for you.
Excellent. Question number 2. Number 1 book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
I haven't gifted the most, I guess. But number 1 book that changed my whole view is Become Your Own Banker, Nelson Nash.
Excellent. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
Man, I am curious about this economy. I'm just to be honest, there's so many weird signs right now. Feels a little, little tenuous at best.
Excellent. Question number 4. What's the best way that you say super healthy and ultra disciplined?
The only way that I have been able to do this is I had to hire a personal trainer. I tried to do it on my own for a long, long time, never could get results. Now that I know I have to pay somebody to show up every time, I do it. And it's crazy how that works.
How many days a week?
I'm just at 2 days a week right now. So
Okay.
But that's been great for me.
2-hour session? What is the session?
1 hour sessions. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. That's great. Next question. Number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Oh man, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, but follow him.
Excellent.
He'll make your path straight.
Amen and amen. Next question. Number one way you're using, either ChatGPT or some kind of AI tool.
I'll tell you this. It's helped us in our podcast prep to take our thoughts like down on paper, dump it into chat, and help it organize our thoughts. So it's still our thoughts, but it's just better organized so we can communicate our message better.
Excellent. Next question. It's a little bit self-serving with what we do with capital gains tax solutions, but what's like the biggest frustration when it comes to like massive exits? Bitcoin 10 million, or stock 10 million, or real estate 10 million, or business 10 million, like huge tax. Like, what's your biggest frustration when it comes to strategies to defer or to help compound the wealth?
My biggest frustration with them is that they do defer and they don't get rid of the actual problem.
Yeah,
on the whole, that's what I would say.
That would be nice. Excellent. And then last question, after all your success, helping all the people you've helped, how do you best stay centered in your values and then stay encouraged to charge up to reach even a higher hill?
Man, I mean, it sounds like repetitive, but just staying focused on, I'm a steward, and that what God's given me, I just need to continue to pour into that until he changes the path.
Amazing. Joey, Mure, I want to just thank you for being on the show, for sharing all your wisdom with us. And I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts and talents to help others build wealth without Wall Street and to unlock what we were talking about all day is freedom to increase service, right? And to live out the calling, live out the purpose for this season of life with flexible strategies for your money, for your time, for your energy. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/build it to billions.
Awesome. Thank you, Joey. And I also want to thank all of our listeners and our viewers for watching or listening to another episode of the Build It to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels. Hey, we're on this journey with you to scale it from millions to billions so we can give more all of it away to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. And my name is Brett Swartz. I want to encourage you to take action today. Share this with someone who can make a big impact for. And of course, if you have a massive exit and you want to defer some capital gains taxes on Bitcoin, business, or real estate, make sure you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn how to build a capital gains tax exit plan. No 1031 exchange required. Lots of options to invest and build that truly passive income, or as close as you can to get to it, plan. Make sure you are always stewarding, as Joey's talked about, the wealth in which you're entrusting others to manage or help you with. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com for all of that. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you all again real soon. Bye now.